Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to FreightWaves Now. Happy Monday. Happy Blue Monday. Actually, if you look at our OTMS tree, it's kind of a gray Monday, but that's a little tease for you to check out in a moment when Sultan of Sonar, Zach Strickland, comes on and tells us about what in the world is going on. He's teasing us with Bollinger Bands. More on that, too, in a minute. But right now, Nick Austin, our chief meteorologist, is going to tell us a little bit about what is happening out there in the weather. It's looking frightful, Nick.
The map is scary, I know.
Yeah,
well, we have a lot of blue on the map too. We're going to start, let's just start on the left coast and we'll just make our way off to the right. So, Seattle had, in some ways, record snowfall over the weekend. 8th snowiest February on record. That'll probably move up to
8th snowiest?
The next, yep, they had about 14 inches of snow from Friday night through Sunday, off and on through the weekend. And there's going to be more snow today. That'll kind of fade out later on tonight. But again, a soft market as far as freight movement. But any drivers trying to get into or out of Seattle, I-5 corridor, it's going to be in bad shape. It's going to continue to be
already
in bad
a difficult market going
already.
Backhaul market going into Seattle.
Not going to be any easier today or tomorrow.
No, but boy, can you make some snow angels.
That's right. People were literally skiing down the streets. That's how much snow they had.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's one way to deliver your goods.
That's right. Hey, when push comes to shove, right?
Yeah.
The other problem areas, which are fairly typical this time of year, Seattle, it's usually rain, not snow. But Midwest and Northeast, yes, including Chicago, Philly, DC, up to Boston today and tonight. Snow, freezing rain and ice, sleet.
Treacherous.
So again, treacherous conditions, disruptive, that's right. So, and that'll be for today and tonight and even lasting into part of Tuesday. So drivers just on all kinds of routes, including the interstates and from the Midwest, from Minnesota all the way over into Michigan and the Northeast and New England for the next 24 to 48 hours.
And just lots of rain as well, right?
Yeah, rain, even some even localized spots of flooding from Arkansas and the parts of the Southeast for today and tomorrow too. So it's not just the frozen stuff, but the liquid precip. The rain is going to be trouble too for the Southeast.
Yeah. Wow.
And also a lot of wind in the Northeast and Midwest. So they'll be blowing snow and limited visibility. So just a big mess.
Okay,
the next couple days.
So the message of the day, stay safe out there.
Yeah, be extra careful.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Nick Austin, for the bad news. No, the disruptive conditions and knowing how to be prepared out there. Hey, he's just calling it like he sees it. All right, Zach Strickland, Sultan of Sonar, bringing us with a perspective of what's looking good for carriers, what's looking bad for carriers, what's it looking like outside.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing. So I've got the Outbound Tender Market Share tree map pulled up.
It's
today.
looking a little gray. How are you feeling today?
Very gray. This is very appropriate for anybody that lives here. It's very gray and cloudy in Chattanooga today. There's a whole bunch of clouds going on. Well, that's what's happening in the freight market.
Gray means
everything. It didn't go up. It didn't go down. It went sideways.
Staying the same.
Everything's kind of staying the same. Everything's kind of flattening out over the last few days. The weekend, of course, not a lot happening. But
do you want to remind our audience about what the tree represents? These are larger markets.
Yeah. So this is the Outbound Tender Market Share is basically a relative volume index. So the pie, think about the pie. Yep. It stays the same size, but everybody starts grabbing bigger and smaller chunks of it as the balance of the freight flows ebb and flow throughout the year. And you can see Ontario is the biggest single freight market in the country right now, getting the big chunk of real estate here up in the corner.
Right.
Big rectangle, big square, and all the way down, you follow it all the way down to the bottom right. These are the smallest outbound markets in the country right now. You got McAllen, Texas, and
can't even put the name in.
Yeah. Duluth, Minnesota, and whatnot. But right now, our biggest market's relatively unchanged day over day.
Okay. Well, thanks for that's kind of like a way that you kind of like start your week off. It's like, what am I seeing? Is it green? Is there activity trending up? Is it red or fuchsia trending down? Or is it gray? Such as your very colors you're wearing, and it is gray.
I didn't even realize
it's very symbolic. Well, yeah, and so you're now showing us what is happening in Pitt, which is really interesting. As we looked at this a little bit earlier, the tender market share, the relative volumes, as we were talking about.
So some of the things that I like to do, just like even though we're focused on what's happening right now, I like to kind of say, okay, this is happening now, but it's got a little bit more of a time frame on it. You want to look at things.
Yeah, give us context.
Yeah, you want to see like, okay, something happened yesterday, but I also want to know how that relates to a longer period of time, because the longer a trend happens, that's going to give it more weight, more value, and obviously more actionable data to kind of work with. So I've got the outbound tender market share for Pittsburgh pulled up.
Over about maybe 3 months
since about the beginning of October. Okay. And you can see this big old trend line that I got drawn on here, representing about a 48% increase in market share value. Now, this is not a measure of absolute volume. This is just how much volume in relation to, like I said, the rest of the country. So Pittsburgh is getting a lot bigger piece of that pie.
And bars represents days here,
yes.
Right? Yeah. So about over 129 days, we have seen almost a 50% increase in their tender market share in Pittsburgh. Not the Harrisburg market, slightly different market.
Right.
Why do you think? What do you attribute this to, or am I throwing you a curveball there? You just report the facts. Maybe you don't always know the why, but
no. Pittsburgh is a different market. Harrisburg is over there by Philly. You got Eastern and Western Pennsylvania, two totally different markets. That Philly market is kind of the gateway market to the Northeast. Pittsburgh is kind of its own market. It's got its own little section of of kind of freight patterns, if you will. Yeah. Typically, freight runs along a corridor from like Chicago all the way over to Philadelphia, Harrisburg area, and then it goes into the Northeast. Pittsburgh is just kind of a stop along the way, whereas Philadelphia is kind of this jumping off point. Got a lot of railheads over there. A lot of warehouses, New Jersey, Pennsylvania kind of border right there. A lot of DCs and stuff to deal with over there. Pittsburgh is kind of independent of all that.
It makes me curious, and I don't know if but year over year, I mean, is this like unusual for Pittsburgh historically to surge this high?
You know, I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay, but it's interesting.
But it is interesting because the rest of the country's pattern, if you look at it, most of the markets out there are doing this right here.
Doing the opposite.
They kind of fall out in October, kind of pick up around Thanksgiving, and then they kind of slide down. As January and February are traditionally the slower months of the year for freight.
Pittsburgh taking its undue share of the pie right now. Right. What's up with that?
Yeah, no,
I don't know. We don't know. But we're just reporting the facts such as we see them right now.
Yeah, and anytime this is happening right now for carriers, they specifically need to look at these kind of trends and stuff in market share, because that's what's going to keep their trucks moving throughout the year.
Yeah, thanks. That's really cool. And Zach is one of our market experts that brings us the carrier's perspective. You know, what Michael Crosby tends to emphasize what's happening with shippers, and he's been enjoying telling us that it's a shipper's paradise of late. Donnie Gilbert tells us about how it's a broker, what's happening with brokers. But so this is cool to know what is happening for carriers, and what a complex and outrageous map you've brought to us now. Boy, our learning curve, we are getting educated.
So I'm excited about this one right here. Do you see all these colors on this map?
It's so pretty.
Goodness
it's so
gracious.
Pretty. So you've brought up the DAT, Van Freight Rate Index, easy for me to say, from a very popular lane, Atlanta to Philly, one of our main corridors. And I see, Zach, that you are cross-comparing that with the Outbound Tender Rejection Index nationally.
For the United States of America. So you're probably wondering why I've done such a crazy comparison.
Why have you done such a crazy comparison?
I got a lot going on here. So I'm going to start off just by explaining. So the DAT, we have those 7 lanes for the futures, as we've discussed over the last week. I've wrapped it in this nice little Bollinger Band.
A Bollinger Band. First time bringing you the Bollinger Band on FreightWaves Now.
Yeah,
Tell us about what the Bollinger Band does.
So the Bollinger Band is basically a nice, easy visual tool to kind of represent or measure volatility in the market. Or
whatever lemon squeezy.
Yeah, whatever chart you're kind of measuring, the Bollinger Band is there to tell you, am I super volatile, which means bouncing up and down real crazy?
Yep.
Or am I going to be just really smooth and easy to kind of predict and see what's going on?
Well, essentially, it's a kind of a moving average, right?
No, well, that's part of it.
So part of it. Yep.
Right here in this middle line, that is a moving average.
There it is.
There's a simple moving average through there.
Cool.
It's a 10-day simple moving average I have on there. So it's averaging the last 10 days of this value right here. And then what it is it's 1.5 standard deviations up or 1.5 standard deviations down. Now, you don't have to know. I'm not going to go into
what is deviation
I'm
mean?
not going into stats 101 or anything like that. That's
not necessary.
Yeah, but all you need to know is that the wider this band gets, the more volatile it is.
And so the cool thing to me about the Bollinger Band, such as I can understand it with all these deviations and such, is that it is based more or less. It's this moving average, but it also measures how far off of the little averages are you going down, hence the red, or above, hence the green.
Yes.
Right.
So, anytime you see this
really
thing kind of contract, things are getting more stable. Whenever it's getting wider, things are getting really volatile. And you see what's crazy here is this October. As the freight market itself, you see the outbound tender rejection index is just collapsing. It's falling down.
Yes.
That means capacity is becoming more readily available
And then
in the
you've
market.
taken a year-over-year look here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what's crazy about this is the market is actually going to a more stable, where more capacity is available, but yet you see this Bollinger Band is kind of taking the alligator mouth is opening.
Yeah, right.
So things got really crazy here. It's because this right here is kind of why, like, rating itself, it's got a little bit of art in it, because people don't know what's going on. They can't tell that the market itself is falling down. They just know what they hear.
It's more of an art unless you have the science
right.
of the analytics behind you, right?
So what's happening here is everybody's really confused about what is actually happening in the market, because they're looking at the rate saying, well, it's super high, there must be no capacity. Wait, it's super low, there's capacity everywhere. No, wait.
Okay, and it's interesting that it is this lane from Atlanta to Philly does, in many respects, well, maybe not back then, but in many respects it is correlated to the national average.
That is a great point. Now, one of the reasons that we did pick these 7 lanes is because they have...
For the freight futures?
Yeah, the freight futures is because they have a correlation with the national capacity and the freight market.
Yes.
So you can see here that Atlanta to Philly, really ramps up when the rest of the country is ramping up, and it does kind of fall down as the country is in general. This is why these lanes matter, is because they have a big impact to the rest of the country in terms of what the capacity situation is. Obviously, Atlanta, one of the top 5 markets in the country. Philadelphia, the same thing. The capacity in those 2 markets, along with Chicago, Dallas, and Los Angeles.
In fact, let's illustrate that with our, right here we have, this is the Atlanta to Philly main lane. So we have, the triangle and the 2 main corridors out west. But one question I had as we were looking at this, Zach, is now why does our Bollinger Band stop right here?
So the reason this stops is because our DAT indices have to be perfect. They have to be clean.
It has to be final.
It has to be the final thing. There can be no adjustments. There's no, we've talked about it before, there's no fuel, there's no team service, no accessorials in there. And so for that reason, there is a little lag right there as they're finalizing all those numbers.
Cool.
That's why you see the O-tries kind of represented.
Okay, wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing you the news such as we can interpret it and see it each and every business day. So welcome back to things trending up in our cyclical cycle of each week on Monday. And boy, we've got all kinds of cool things for you looking ahead to the week. We are going to be talking more about the freight futures as we continue to go out on the road to the Freight Futures Roadshow. show. We are going to be talking some economics and some data on Wednesday. We're going to be giving you the playbook each and every day, what is happening right now. So thanks for checking this out. And, like the Bollinger Band, really cool stuff, not too technical. We can interpret it and use it for, our purposes. So again, thanks for tuning in. We are here live for you each and every day at 4 p.m. Check us out on FreightWaves.com and on Twitter. And we will see you tomorrow. And don't worry, be happy.